So what else is coming for the US? Let's talk about this, culture. Because I've been speaking to Ashley Frawley, who's written a piece, a really trenchant piece for Compact Magazine, about why Kamala Harris was so roundly rejected by a significant percentage of the electorate, particularly young men of various backgrounds. The fall, she says, she recognises it as a fall of maternal liberalism. What does that mean? Well, she gave me her reading of why the electorate went for Trump over Harris.
Yeah, so part of it is that voters are looking for improvements. They're looking for someone who they think can deliver them a better life. I was talking to one of my friends from America recently, and he was saying, we all know that policymakers, politicians, that they're not known for their truthfulness. But the question was, whose lies did you want to believe? Trump was promising a golden age. Did you want to believe that? Or did you want to believe that Kamala is going to save you from fascism? Right. One side is promising that the world's going to go pretty poorly tomorrow, and maybe they'll mitigate the harm. And the other side saying things are going to be great. And what offers you more of a promising vision? And then the other thing is that the whole persona of Trump, the coarseness, the strongman approach, all of that really speaks to a tiredness that a lot of the electorate has of a kind of faux caring, this politics of containment of working class angst in terms of, well, we'll offer you this welfare program, or we'll mitigate the harms, or transforming the working class into these kinds of objects of benevolence and care from this very paternalistic, or as I argue in my recent piece for Compact Magazine, a very sort of benevolent maternalism that is really disempowering, and it really feels like you're being talked down to.
Hang on, why are you calling it maternalism? Actually, sorry, why are you calling it maternalism? Barack Obama served 2 terms. He brought in what we call the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Now, you might call that a caring bit of European-style socialism, as some did. Joe Biden, a man, defeated Trump, 4 years in office, coming to an end now, but he doesn't strike me as particularly feminine in his approach. Why are you saying that there's a rejection of a maternalistic approach when in the for 12 of the last 16 years, it's been men running the economy pretty successfully on the whole, and saying to other guys, hey, look, we're going to be a good, responsible global neighbor?
Yeah, I mean, it's the vision of the ideal subject of capitalism, or of a citizen. The ideal citizen has really changed, and it's become a lot more feminized over the past, I'd say maybe like 30 years, maybe more. And if you really want to get a vision of this, picture on Wall Street, you have the famous charging bull. But just down the road from it is a little girl in a defiant stance. Kamala supporters might have seen her as this little girl personified, all grown up and staring down the charging bull of masculinity. That's the old order. Here's the new. But of course, if you think about a bullfight, it's the matador that actually holds the power. And what's happened in our culture, in our society, generally around the world, is that the ideal of what you are supposed to be as a subject is no longer the masculine, autonomous charging bull. It's now the caring, feminized, body conscious in terms of like health discourses. The stereotypes associated with femininity tend to be bigged up. Deferring your autonomy to other people, being heteronymous, as Kant called it. So you look to other people constantly. These are all stereotypes associated with femininity. And in fact, feminists for a really long time fought against them and said, no, these are holding us back. But now in our health discourses and our global development, it's like, actually, that's really great. It's so good that you distrust yourselves, lady. It's great that you're body conscious. It's great that you are willing to defer to experts. And men, too, you should be like that. We need more girl bosses.
But actually, it hasn't the discourse changed over the past 30 or 40 years, become more feminized, purely because women were held down so brutally with violence in most countries around the world. And look at the murder rate. The most extreme form of violence in the States is 7 times what it is here in this country, far higher than any other country, as far as I can see, in the Western world. Surely that needed to be tamed.
Yeah, that's how this discourse actually became so powerful, because it shrouds itself in that kind of thing. Oh, this is so great. This is a real advance for women. But remember, I said this is stereotypes associated with women. Now, someone telling me that I'm going to be a great leader because I'm emotional, I find to be highly insulting. This is what generations of feminists had said that there's nothing about your genitalia that necessarily dictates how you're going to be as a leader, as a human, as a person. Virginia Woolf looked forward to the day when women would be just as free as men to take risks, to exert ourselves in the public sphere. She didn't want us to be the protected sex. Now we're supposed to demand protection from risks, because that's supposed to be what women are like, and that's great, actually. So what is happening here is we're getting stereotypes of women, not actual women. The freedom of actual women is great. We should have more of that. We should have more freedom for all human beings, whatever they want.
Including to choose when and where to have a baby, and if they need medical help, including termination, to be able to seek that in their state, in their county, without having to go across the country. And now we have a bunch of guys in the States saying to women who might be in need, sorry, we don't think you should have this. Now, does that mean things are going backwards?
As a bullshit woman, we got to stand up to that. We have to fight against that. But I think what's happening is that general, very belittling outlook is something that people are really rejecting. And unfortunately, it's bleeding out into actually rejecting women and women's rights. This is a problem. So I think we have to reject this stereotypical feminine and how it's being pressed on us everywhere. It holds men back and it holds women back, because it undermines that old model of the subject, of the citizen, which was autonomous, capable of making choices. That's what underpins our democracy. That's been eroding. Now it's just a myth. Oh, autonomy. Oh, reason. Nobody has that. Ha ha. You think you're being progressive by saying things like that. You're undermining the entire foundation of our liberal democratic societies. So this feminized subject that we're getting stuffed down our throats is not actually progressive. It doesn't represent either men or women, and it's causing rollback in a huge number of ways across a huge number of policies, because it's now being associated with women. But it's got nothing to do with how actual women might behave, might be leaders, might want to express themselves in the world.
What do you make of that then from Ashley Frawley, the academic and columnist at Compact magazine? So a rejection of Kamala, or Momala, as she called her in a piece for Compact magazine. It's a rejection of the kind of feminization of government, principally by men who say, we've had enough of this, we want to be free, we want to be our own thing, stop calling us toxic, let us decide how we want to live our lives. Do you buy that? Your thoughts, please, in the usual ways. Henry Bonsu on Times Radio 1.